question from the DHNA board before our audience questions. Gun laws. Please share your stand on gun laws in Tennessee, Mr. Gatto.
Thank you. I'm glad I get to go first. You know, we have a Constitution that has a Second Amendment in it, and it's very clear what it says. I think that Constitution needs to be interpreted in light of what the framers' intent was, and also in the context of what the oppressive government, they had just fought a war to come out from under. And when you look at it in that light, I think the intent is very clear. The intent was that every citizen has the right to keep and to bear arms. Now, there were a lot of discussion about guns in parks at the Metro Council a few months back. And I'm perfectly fine with outlawing guns in metro parks if you build a fence around all those parks and you control the ingress and egress from those parks and you scan people just like you do at the airport. To just say no guns in metro parks would be the same thing as going down here to the airport, taking out all the security, just put up a big sign, no guns allowed. Now, how safe would you feel if you got on an airplane? That's exactly the situation you create in a metro park when you say no guns in parks and you don't screen the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hager.
I wasn't intending on going that. We absolutely have the right to bear arms. We have the right to own arms. Always have, always will. I'm a United States Marine. I like my rifles. I don't necessarily care much for handguns. I think that's the handguns there to kill somebody. I think that a person that does carry them, unless they're a peace officer, that's what they want to do, or that's what they're hoping that it might happen. I don't know. I don't know the case. I know the one thing, I don't want to be walking in the park and people are out shooting beer bottles in the park. That's one thing that's not in my mind. I also don't want to go into a club or a restaurant and see somebody packing a piece and they might be drunk and pissed off at their wife or something and decide to do whatever they're doing. Either way it goes, that's my opinion and that's my feeling about those issues. I do think we spend an awful lot of time on something that's natural. Back in the old days, you had to hang your gun up on the post before you came into town.
Thank you. Mr. Toby. All right.
I like new rifles. I believe in the Second Amendment. I think that it gets back to some responsibility. Long story short, I think I'm challenged with the idea that Jim mentioned about fencing off the parks and these things. I understand the general premise or point you're trying to make, but I think it just gets back to practicality. I think people need to be responsible. That's why we have trigger locks and etc. But I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that everyone has the right to bear arms. I mentioned earlier about us living on some acreage and being involved with the community that does their share of hunting. I happen to not hunt. However, we do have a firearm, and I believe that everyone deserves to protect themselves. I'm somewhat ashamed almost that each of us feel like we have to be protected. I don't fully appreciate how we got there. I'd like to kind of focus on how we can back off of some of that. But meanwhile, we still have the Second Amendment, and I believe in it.
Thank you, Mr. Toby.
Thank you. I agree with the right to own your own firearm. I actually have 2 shotguns at home from my hunting days back when I was younger. I cannot stress enough that I am totally against guns in bars and restaurants. I just don't see the logic in that. I agree with our police department. I just simply don't understand. If you feel the need to have to carry a gun into a restaurant or bar, then why go in the first place? I just don't understand that. I work in criminal court. I see what guns and drugs and guns and alcohol do to people every single day. Defendants, victims, innocent bystanders. I just don't understand the logic in allowing that to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Councilman Gatto has said there's a bill before the council that would allow guns in parks. That was the bill that I sponsored because I too believe in the Second Amendment, but with some clear understanding and parameters. I think under the right condition, people should be allowed to carry a firearm into the isolated parks, not around children, and not where we have citizens having recreation. But I do think that what we ought to do is take a serious look at every aspect and make sure that we screen people. Guns around alcohol is a no. guns where citizens are participating in recreation events, I think that's a bad idea. But I will say one thing. We should go about it in a systematic way and never say never. Always give the citizen a right to protect themselves if they're trained and if they pass the background check. I am a supporter of the Second Amendment, but we have to use some common logical approaches when we modify our laws to say guns can be everywhere under any condition. That I don't agree with.